Welcome to my presentation on the one and only Barbara Liskov, a huge figure in computer programming, one of the founding, basically, figures of something that we'd come to know as object-oriented programming, and an overall influential person in computer programming. First off, we're going to start with a few major points of overview. She won the AM Turing Award, a huge award. She's won other awards, but the biggest one was the AM Turing Award. Some of her biggest achievements are going to be Clue, which is a programming language, Argus, which is another programming language, Venus, which is a processing unit / computer, and then the biggest one being the concept of data abstraction, something that would basically skyrocket object-oriented programming to new heights. She's also a proud alumni of Harvard and Stanford, which is what we're going to learn about a little bit more here. With her college history, she's acquired her bachelor's in mathematics at the University of California. Proud graduate there. She's gone on record saying that she was very happy with her time spent at Cali. After that, she'd be spending a year working at the Mitri Corporation, which is something that would kind of start pulling her towards the more computer science programming side of mathematics. She would then after spending a year at the Mitri Corporation, she would go to Harvard, start working on a master's in computer science, and then she would move to Stanford to work on her master's completely in computer science. She received this computer science PhD in 1968, which would make her the first ever woman to receive a PhD in computer science, which is very historic. And with this computer science degree, she would work on the Venus computer. Now, Liskov has basically kind of cited ALGOL, which is a programming language, as her main inspiration for the upcoming computer, the Venus computer. She would say that there was two ideas to programming in ALGOL. There was a good way and a bad way. The good way was more having an inner block of data that had private data that no outer blocks could get, and then the bad idea was more having blocks that could just freely exchange data wherever they were. She would go on to say that it was a very messy way of programming that no one would really want to go look through the code and try to figure out what's wrong, if something was wrong with these data blocks. And so when making Venus, her first major achievement, she would basically focus on partitions, which she said was the good idea of ALGOL. Basically having an inner block that no other outer blocks could come and try to exchange the data with, right? The Venus operating system was mostly about being as efficient as possible, seeing what architectures were best or time-sharing processes, and it was basically a very experimental success, leading Liskov to many, many more opportunities in the computer science realm. One of them being her next major achievement, Clue, or CLU. CLU, programming language that Liskov made shortly after finishing work on the Venus operating system. The language is, again, based off of ALGOL. ALGOL is going to be a huge thing throughout all of Liskov's life. She'll basically be wanting to replicate ALGOL and make it way better, something a lot of computer programmers can basically relate to, and is made to work with a new type of data she creates in Clue called clusters. Clusters are what Clue is based off of, the name. They're a fairly primitive form of objects, a very primitive form of what we would know as objects in object-oriented programming. It's mostly used to share procedures and iterators within itself. This scholar would state that working on Clue was all about taking these steps towards data abstraction. Data abstraction is going to be her final goal, something that we learn in computer architectures, something that we will get to know throughout a lot more of object-oriented programming with stuff like Java, JavaScript, everything that's very object-oriented. Data abstraction is going to be a very big part of what Liskov wants to make in the future. Liskov would work on the Argus language. Argus is a programming language after Clue. Again, Clue was a programming language. Argus is a programming language. Argus is an extension or an expansion of Clue. Argus was going to now focus on a new type of program called distributed programs. It's going to use these little helpers called guardians. The guardians are going to basically point certain distributed programs together to kind of like addresses, like header addresses pointing towards another address to another address. That was the pseudo idea of what the guardians were doing. It was also to kind of help the clusters get along together a lot more than what they were doing in Clue. This extension would get Liskov and her future students one step closer to getting into her main achievement in life, the creation of data abstraction due to the guardians. Now, we have a nice little infographic here from Geeks for Geeks. It shows that data abstraction will go from the physical level, something we do, to the logical level, something the computer does, and then different views. Liskov would invent the idea of data abstraction to help programmers with distributed systems. This invention would go on to revolutionize programming as we know it, rocketing us towards object-oriented programming. Some examples of things data abstraction helps us with: object-oriented database systems, caching, recovery of data, garbage collection. I could go on and on about other examples that data abstraction helps us with, but it basically helps us with everything object-oriented focused, object-oriented pointing. And so, to conclude, with both these previous achievements and others Liskov would earn later in life, one of the main ones being the Liskov substitution program, which is, I'm not going to go into here, but it's another major thing that would lead to data abstraction. She would earn the A.M. Turing Award in 2008. With her major push towards data abstraction, her own programming languages, we wouldn't have what we consider to be object-oriented programming inheritance to this day. Thank you.